Hello one and all, I'm back once again to a video on Soma Spider, So What? This time covering the cut content of Volume 2 of Light Novel, and I've got to say, I'm so freaking excited for this video because Volume 2 is probably my favorite volume of the Shun timeline. I mean, don't get me wrong, Kumiko's storyline here is freaking amazing. I mean, she's basically traveling through hell, but the Shun storyline is so fascinating. Though, weirdly enough, the best chapters of this are the ones without Shun in it, because this volume gives 5 chapters to Katya, 5 chapters where she's talking to the other reincarnators without Shun, and it just does such an amazing job of really showing the mindset of all of them, showing their evolution, how they've changed the new world, and really foreshadowing what comes next. Oh god, I'm so excited to talk about it. But before that, let's talk about Kumiko, because, this volume starts off with her saying, I just realized I'm pretty unlucky, as she looks out at a sea of red-hot magma. Which, yeah, you know what? She does sound pretty unlucky. I mean, after she finally made her way through the lower stratum that was full of monsters that could kill her in a single blow, she found herself in the middle stratum, which is also full of monsters who can kill her in a single blow, because she is really weak to fire. Seriously, she's so weak to fire, she's taking damage from just standing in the middle stratum. Just the heat in this area is enough to damage to her. Her thread just keeps bursting into flames, and if she's not careful, it'll travel all the way back up her butt and set her on fire. So yeah, this is a very bad place for her to be. It is quite literally hell for her. And interestingly enough, she only comes across a single type of monster as she traverses, literal hell. I mean, there is that one frog she meets, but he's a divergent she thinks wandered in from the upper stratum and evolved to adapt to the heat. Every other monster, though, is either a seahorse or an evolution of a seahorse. And obviously their names aren't seahorses, but I can't actually pronounce any of the names of any of the monsters in this series. Seriously, they have a very strange naming sense. I'm just, very bad at pronouncing weird names. Honestly, I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing worm correctly. W-Y-R-M. I saw some people online saying it was Virm, others saying worm. I'm gonna go with worm because that's just easier to pronounce. Anyway, the seahorse is a lesser worm, whose big strategy is to fire fireballs from magma using its level 1 fireworm skill, Fireball. And then when it runs out of MP, it'll come on land and charge the opponent, which is, a really dumb idea because they are not that fast, they are not that strong, and Kumiko has absolutely no problem taking them down even without her threatening. Kumiko's biggest problem with them is really the fact that she has to wait for them to cool down before she can eat them, but eventually they gain enough experience to evolve into a catfish, which is also considered a lesser worm, but is much smarter than seahorses and knows when to run away. Seriously, seahorses just charge whatever they see, but the catfish realize, okay, that's a very dangerous enemy, I shouldn't fight it, I should leave right now. So yeah, a bit smarter, good for them. They're actually described as being cowardly. Anyway, though, they have the fireworm skill at level 2, allowing them to use heat wrap, which basically wraps their entire body in heat, allowing them to move more quickly. Somehow, I'm not exactly sure how the physics of that work, but whatever. Anyway, the big important thing for them is the fact they are really tasty. They're freaking delicious, actually. I mean, Kumiko says they're no comparison to what she had back in Japan, but after, weeks and weeks of eating nothing but monster meat, this is like freaking manna from heaven for her, and she's so happy about it. Though she is a bit annoyed that she let the one run away from her because she won't eat that one too. Anyway, though, eventually a catfish gains enough experience to evolve into an eel, which is considered an average worm monster, and has stats between 500 and 1,000, so pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. It also has the skill probability correction, so its fireballs and its attacks are way more accurate, and Kumiko has a very hard time dodging them, especially when it uses its level 4 fireworm skill, Flame Breath, which just spews flames all over the place. Yeah, very hard to dodge, but thankfully, it's not all that smart, and when it runs out of MP, it'll go on land, just like the catfish and the seahorse before it. It also has level 3 fireworm skill, Life Exchange, which basically lets it recharge its HP by sacrificing SP, which, pretty good deal. And Light Novel describes it as being less cowardly than the catfish, but still knowing when it needs to run away. I love that, I freaking love that. And you're probably thinking when the eel gets enough experience, it evolves into the fire dragon we saw her fight, but that's not actually the case. There's a whole nother step in the evolutionary line that wasn't included in the anime, a high-ranking fireworm, who isn't nearly as strong as the fire dragon, but it's in perfect health unlike the fire dragon. Its stats are fairly impressive, between 1,000 and 2,000. Instead of the dragon scales skill, it has the imperial scales skill, which basically means all of Kumiko's newly unlocked magic is completely and utterly worthless against it. And the biggest headache of this is the fact it has the cooperation and leadership skills, which basically allow it to control weaker monsters. So yeah, when Kumiko has to fight this thing, she fights against an army of seahorses, and for those giant eels she struggled against so much. It is a true threat to her. Though weirdly enough, Kumiko says that the cooperation skill makes the attacks easier to dodge because they're all focused on shooting the one target, shooting at her. But if instead they were basically, carpet bombing the whole area, she wouldn't have a spot to land on, and it would be much harder for her to escape. So they're too focused on her. That's a weird drawback to coordination. I like that. But anyway, then start the volume, she decides between evolving to a Terratact or small poison Terratact. And she chooses the small poison one solely because it has the term rare in its description, which, oh, I love you, Kumiko, I love you. And the big benefit to this is that she loses her Poison Fang skill and instead gains the Poison Attack skill, which basically adds Poison Tribute to any attack. So she can include Poison Tribute in her webbing now, even though she can't actually use webbing in the Mill Stratum, but still, it's a very useful skill to have. She also levels up her Poison Magic, which gives her the Poison Shot spell, which basically shoots poison, and she's really excited to use that, especially in the Mill Stratum, where she can't rely on her threading anymore, but she can't use it because she can't use magic. So she decides to learn magic! Yay! In order to use magic, all you really need to have is the Magic Power Perception skill, the Magic Operation skill, and some magic skills. She has a bunch of magic skills. Taboo magic, poison magic, shadow magic, heretic magic, whole bunch of magic skills. But the Magic Power Perception is where things get a little bit tricky, because she already has the Detection skill, which includes Magic Power Perception, so if she actually got that skill, it would get integrated into Detection, and she can't actually use Detection because it causes severe headaches. So yeah, she's in a lot of trouble. She can't actually use magic no matter what she does. So instead, she decides to look through the catalog and see if there's any skills out there that can be beneficial to her right now that can help her along the process. And she finds a very interesting one, Pride. For the low cost of 100 skill points, it says, N% of the power to reach godhood upon acquiring experience points and proficiency will greatly increase, along with the improved growth capacity for every ability. In addition, the user will gain the ability to surpass the W system and interfere with the MA field. Now, the whole N% of the power to reach godhood and interfere with the MA field, yeah, that's still a little mystery, still a big mystery of what exactly any of that means. But all the other ruler class skills she gets down the road also say the same thing, so it seems important. And as soon as she buys it, her debut skill goes up from 2 to 4. She gets the title of Ruler of Pride, Abyss Magic level 10, and Hades. So, yeah, there's a whole bunch of worrying words right there. I mean, first off, Hades literally just says Manifest Hades, which, yeah, that's worrying. And then when it comes to Abyss Magic, she gets 10 spells. Hellgate, the beginning gate. Hell of unbelievers, hell for the ignorant and unbelievers. Hell of lust, hell for those stained with lust. Hell of gluttony, hell for those who glorify gluttony. Hell of greed, hell for those who devote themselves to greed. Hell of wrath, hell for those who are ruled by wrath. Hell of heresy, hell for those who idolize heresy. Hell of violence, hell for those who exert violence. Hell of fraud, hell for those who whisper fraud. Hell of treachery, hell for those who stir up treachery. So yeah, a whole bunch of worrying stuff right there. I'm also pretty sure those are the 9 gates of hell from Dante's Inferno, so concerning, very concerning. And then things just improve for her very quickly. She thinks about why there are no enemies around her and she gains a prediction skill. She starts looking for enemies and she gains the visual enhancement skill. She starts listening for enemies and she gains the auditory enhancement skill. And then very quickly after that, her prediction goes up to 3, and she gains parallel thinking, which allows her to think about multiple things at the same time. So basically, Pride allows her mental skills to level up much more quickly. And she's hoping that, maybe this will help her level up her detection, so she turns on again, and it hurts, so she turns off, and then again, and again, and again. And every time she turns on, it increases her parallel thinking, her arithmetic processing, her prediction, or heresy resistance, which is very interesting. I mean, the mental ones make a lot of sense, It's requiring a lot of mental processes to try and calculate, try and process all the information coming in through detect. But heresy resistance means that detection is literally an attack on the soul itself. Every time she turns on the spell, it's hurting her very soul. So again, there's so many worrying things in this volume. There's so many worrying things for Kumiko. But anyway, then she decides to train her fire resistance and HP auto recovery by going into the Mill Stratum, waiting until she's very much near death, and then leaving the Mill Stratum so that she can, regenerate her health through HP auto recovery. And through this process, going through this again and again. She gets her HP auto recovery up to level 5 and her fire resistance up to level 1. Yeah, for her, fire resistance raises very slowly, and it takes a lot of time to level up. She also gets MP and SP less in consumption and recovery speed, meaning it costs much less MP and SP to use her spells, her abilities, all that, and they recover far more quickly. Yay! But anyway, thanks to Pride, her skills continue to improve. She has concentration up to level 10, which leads to her gaining the skill Thought Acceleration, which increases her perception of time by 10%, but requires no SP or MP, so she leaves it on constantly. She also gets her prediction skill up to level 10, which gains her the skill Foresight level 1, which allows her to see brief glimpses of the future overlapping with her vision, and also requires no MP or SP, so she also leaves that one on constantly. And then finally, Appraisal reaches level 9. Yay! And she's now able to see her opponent's skills and figure out exactly what they're capable of doing, which makes it much, much easier to strategize for battles. And she can also now see what her overeating skill is actually doing. Before, it just said, manages to store backup SP. She didn't actually know what it meant. Now she can actually see how much SP she stored up, and it is a lot. It is a lot. Her current maximum SP right now is 88, but she has 612 bits of SP charged up, stored through overeating. So yeah, she is good for a very, very long time. And she can also now see her titles, finally. Oh, we also get a definition of what exactly a title is. Title, enhancement code obtained by satisfying certain conditions. Up to 2 skills can be acquired at the time of obtaining a new title. Some titles have special effects, increase certain stats, and so on. Her first title was Foul Feeder, which is given to someone who eats a lot of poisonous food, like she did in the upper stratum, because literally everything up there was poisonous. And the effect is it increases the strength of the digestive system. And interestingly enough, down the road we actually see a human who has this skill because, she is just so utterly, utterly poor. And while she is able to eat, rotten food because of it, it did not increase, the strength of her liver, which actually had to process all that rotten food. And as a result, she got liver cancer. So a very, very interesting title. And it's very important because this title gave her the skill Rot Resistance level 1, which was then boosted when she ate that snail down the road, which was super, super important. But I'll get into that more in a second. Next up, we have Kin Eater, which is given to someone who eats a blood relative. Oh, that's disturbing. That's so very, very disturbing. I mean, seriously, besides Faye, I don't think there's many people in the world who got this skill, or got this title by accident. Or, even have it in general. The assassin title is given to those who perform a certain number of lethal surprise attacks, and it boosts the strength of surprise attacks. Monster Slayer is given to those who defeat a certain number of monsters. And then Monster Slaughter is given to those who defeat a larger number of monsters. And they both basically say the same thing, except Monster Slaughter gives a bigger increase in damage done to monster opponents. The Poison Technique user title is given to someone who uses a whole bunch of poison and makes their poison even more lethal, with a description reading, a title awarded to those who use poison. Yeah, that's pretty on the nose. Next up, we have Thread User, which just says, use threads to attack a certain number of times, increase power of thread-based attacks. Description, a title granted to those who use thread as a weapon. Merciless. Oh, this is a fun one. This is the one she got for killing all those monkeys even after she had already, basically won the fight and tied them all up. It says, acquisition conditions, merciless behavior. Effect, negates any feelings of guilt. Description, a title awarded to merciless individuals. Oh, that's mean. That is really mean. Also means Kumiko is now incapable of feeling guilt. Interesting. And finally, we have Ruler of Pride. Acquisition conditions, obtain pride, skill effect, increases MP, magic, and resistance. Stats, positive correction to mental skill proficiencies, basically meaning arithmetic processing, predictions, visual enhancement, all that stuff. They level up much, much more quickly. And it also grants ruling class privileges, with a description reading a title given to one who has conquered pride. So good for you, Kumiko, you conquered pride. And of course, she does have some questions about the whole ruling class privileges thing, so she actually looks it up. And it says, ruling class privileges, authority given to rulers to control a portion of the world. And then she tries to actually activate it, and it says, Ruler of Pride's request to exercise special privileges has been received. Currently, the Ruler of Pride has no authority available for use. So, yeah, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure what role that'll have down the road, but definitely something to keep an eye out for. Then she has her big battle against the eel and goes up from level 7 to level 10. Huzzah! Now she can evolve again, either choosing a Poison Pterodactyl or a Zoa-El. The Poison Pterodactyl has extremely powerful poison, but it's not small, and she's worried that, without her small size, she'll just step right into the magma. She won't have the maneuverability, the evasion she currently has. And the Zoa-El requires the Assassination title, and it says, Fear is an ill omen, has high combat and stealth capabilities. So, yeah, that makes it sound much, much better. So she goes with that. She decides to become an assassin. Though first she uses the eel to make a nice little shelter for herself to make sure that no baddies, no monsters can attack her while she's evolving. And thanks to her overeating skill, even after the evolution, she still has SP to spare. Huzzah! And then she gets to see her stats, and yeah, they've definitely improved. They're all up by 100, which basically doubled some of them, so impressive. Very, very impressive. I mean, it said it had high combat strength, and it was not kidding. And there are some other seriously impressive improvements with this new upgrade. For one thing, her front legs turn from claws into freaking scythes, and her whole body is black now, like a ninja, an assassin. In fact, she even gained the skill Silence, which suppressed the creation of sound. So yeah, she is quite literally a ninja. Oh, also her poison synthesis skill gained the ability to add paralysis attributes to her poison. So now she can poison enemies and paralyze them at the same time. A truly, truly terrifying spider. And to make things even more terrifying, she gained the skill Rot Attack, which when she tried to use it on a foe, disintegrated him. Literally turned the opponent to dust in front of her, which, is a bad thing because now there's no food for her to eat. But it's also a bad thing because it destroyed her arm. It destroyed the arm she used for the Rot Attack. So that's bad. That is very, very bad. And honestly, it was almost so much worse. I said before the Foul Feeder title gave her rot resistance, and then she improved it again by trying to eat that really, really nasty snail. If she did not have rot resistance, that attack would literally have killed her. It would have turned her to dust as well. So yeah, very, very grateful for eating a whole bunch of poison and super deadly things as soon as she got to this world. Huzzah! And also her skills Cutting Thread and Spider Thread disappeared and were replaced with a skill Utility Thread, which generates customizable threads. Customizable qualities include viscosity, elasticity, resilience, texture, strength, size, and the attributes now include cutting, impact, and shock. So yeah, a whole lot more possibilities with the threads she can create. And as a weird result of evolution, she now gains way more skill points every time she levels up, which allows her to get the 500-point skill Perseverance, which basically turns her MP into a second HP bar. So if her HP reaches 0, the damage will affect her MP instead, and she won't die immediately. Yay! Unfortunately, this does boost her to-boost skill up from 5 to 7, but on the bright side, she managed to get the Ruler of Perseverance title, which came with Heresy Nullification and Conviction, and increases her defense and resistance stats, and allowed her to purchase the Evil Eye skills. Oh, which are some of her favorite skills, definitely some of her favorite skills, and makes it easier to improve her resistance skills. And then we have the actual skills she got with that title, Heresy Nullification and Conviction. First off, Conviction does non-resistible damage based on the target's total amount of guilt. So as best as you can tell, it does way more damage to a target who has the taboo skill. Very, very worrying, especially since, her taboo skill is now up to 7, so if someone did it on her, yeah, that would hurt. That would really, really hurt. But she doesn't really have time to worry about that right now, because Heresy Nullification means she can use the detection skill with only a minor headache. And as she's looking out at the world, she seems to understand everything, as if she stole a glimpse of some grand cosmic truth. And this gives just a huge boost to a whole bunch of her skills. Most interesting enough, though, she gains the skill Divinity Expansion Level 1, which expands the divinity field, which is the depth of a living thing's soul, the foundation of every life, as well as the self's final field of dependence. That sounds important. That sounds very, very important. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but it sounds important, so I decided to mention it. She managed to get arithmetic processing up to 10, which gives her high-speed processing, and then she gets detection up to level 10, but does nothing new. Though she does hear a little bit of static, and she also gets her parallel thinking up to level 10, which gets her parallel minds level 1, which leads to the creation of body brain and info brain. And it's very interesting because she even says, most people would go completely and utterly crazy trying to figure out which one is real, but she seemed to handle it with surprising ease, dealing with the fact there's 2 of them, neither of them really concerned over which one is the real one, or if either of them are actually the real one at all. Though there is a very, very weird section of light novel where body brain and info brain start bad-mouthing one another. Like, they're bad-mouthing one another to the reader. Body brain is coming out, info brain is an idiot. She comes up with these stupid suggestions that I need to implement, and I keep getting hurt because of it. While info brain says, body brain is a total idiot. She takes my suggestions too far. No, actually, she's too incompetent to enact my brilliant ideas. So, yeah, she's already turning on each other like 5 minutes after having created a copy of herself. So, yeah, worrying. Very, very worrying. And getting her vision enhancement to level 10 gets her the telescopic eye level 1. Huzzah! So now she can see things really, really far away and scout for enemies. Shen takes a look at the Evil Eye skills, and there are some very, very interesting ones to choose from. There's Cursed Evil Eye, Annihilating Evil Eye, Paralyzing Evil Eye, Petrifying Evil Eye, Discomforting Evil Eye, Phantom Pain Evil Eye, Maddening Evil Eye, Charming Evil Eye, Hypnotizing Evil Eye, and Fearful Evil Eye. And most interesting one is probably the Annihilating Evil Eye, because that uses the Rot attribute. And again, if she did not have Rot resistance, that attack would literally have killed her. But for right now, she decides to go with the Cursed Evil Eye, which weakens all stat values and causes damage to HP, MP, and SP. So yeah, super, super powerful skill. Basically, when she uses it on an opponent, their stats start to decrease very, very quickly. Though that process slows down when the opponent's stats at like the halfway mark, you can only, decrease it so much. Though, interestingly enough, when the frog's SP hits 0, it instantly dies. Yeah, SP hitting 0 means instant death in this world. So good to know, because she came, very, very close hitting that a few times in her life at this point. And then Appraisal reaches level 10. She's a little disappointed. She's like, wow, I was really hoping that when Appraisal hit 10, I'd get something new out of it, some evolution, some improved skill, something. And then she starts to hear radio static, followed by an announcement, Upper Administrator D has accepted the request, and then things get really, really crazy as level 10 Appraisal and level 10 Detection are integrated into Wisdom. Taboo is boosted to level 8. She gets the title Ruler of Wisdom and the skills Height of Occultism and Celestial Power, with Height of Occultism integrating MP recovery speed and MP lesson consumption. Celestial Power integrates magic mass and protection. And then, she starts to panic. She really, really starts to panic as she realizes, she's being watched constantly by Mr. D. She's just a game. She's just a rat in a labyrinth. But then, she gets over it fairly quickly, gets really pumped up, starts talking about how, Mr. D is going to watch her glorious life, only to then find out that she is on fire. Yeah, well, she was so focused on Mr. D and all that, she didn't realize that her thread was on fire. So then she tries to make some weak poison to put the fire out, but forgot she included the paralyzing element in that poison, so now she's paralyzed, unable to move, and is on fire. On the bright side, this gets her fire resistance up to level 4, and her paralysis resistance up to level 5. On the bad side, though, her HP reaches 0, and she dies at the end of the series. So sad. Oh, wait, no, she has her perseverance skill, which manages to, keep her from dying. Huzzah! Oh, I love it. I freaking love it. Actually, and at the end of the volume, there's a chapter called God Loves Spiders, which is Minister D watching this laughing and saying she's going to make sure to record the image of Kumiko setting herself on fire before asking, what will you show me next? How will you interact with this world? How will you change it? I'm very much looking forward to finding out. So again, super duper creepy. Then we actually get to find out Wisdom and all the new skills do. And actually, this is a good point to mention. If you are going to end up reading light novels, you should be aware there are a lot of typos in this, especially when it comes to the name of skills. For example, when Height of Occultism is first mentioned, it's named Height of Evil, and then switches to Occultism on the next page, and it's a little bit confusing. It's a lot bit confusing sometimes. And, Wisdom, for whatever reason, Wisdom is labeled as Perseverance here, so yeah, definitely a typo. I think they might have copied and pasted that to include, the whole N% of the power to reach godhood and all that MA field stuff, but then they forgot to actually change the name of it. So, yeah, not a great job translating this, but it's still enjoyable. Anyway, Wisdom, besides the whole MA field and power to reach godhood thing, it says, enables acquisition of browsing level 1 information regarding anything in the user's range of perception. So basically, it's basically Google. She can look up anything she wants that she's seen or has close access to and figure out exactly what it means. Huzzah! Then we have the actual title Ruler of Wisdom, which gives an increased MP, magic, and resistance stats, and gives a positive correction to magic skill proficiencies. Then there's Height of Occultism, which increases support for controlling magic power within the system, as well as maximizing all ruin-related stats. Also maxes out MP recovery speed while minimizing MP consumption. And finally, Celestial Power adds 1,000 correction to MP, magic, and resistance stats. Also, growth of these stats each level increases by 100. So, yeah, that's impressive. That is very, very impressive. And within the span of all of 2 minutes, she goes from a speed-based character to a magic-based character because she just becomes so overwhelmingly broken in terms of magic. Anyway, though, thanks to her new wisdom skill, she can actually access info on her body. She can figure out where her defense is strongest, where her attack is strongest, where different speed stats are, where different magic stats are, which are magic attack power, ruin speed, ruin stability, ruin strength, etc. All of which are maxed out at 99,999. So yeah, she's broken. Because of Height of Occultism, her magic skills are completely and utterly broken. She can also read her resistances and finds out that she's weak to fire, ice, water, and light. Which, makes sense. Fire, her threading burns up very quickly. Ice and water, as a spider, she can't really swim all that well. Light, she'll spend her whole life living in darkness, so that makes sense. And, she is a monster, so light-based attacks are obviously going to do more damage to her. Her heresy resistance, though, is at 99,999 thanks to her heresy nullification skill. So, yay for that. Yay for that. She also now has access to the full skill catalog instead of just being able to see the skills that she was able to purchase and can view all of them, though some of them are just so overwhelmingly costly that she'll never get them, like Immortality, which cost 1,000,000 skill points. Yeah, she's not getting that anytime soon. She also gets an auto mapping skill, which shows her the entire path she's taken since she first arrived in the labyrinth, which, very, very helpful for finding her way out of it. And she can also now see her evolutionary tree, showing every possible evolution she might reach in the future and their relative strength. and that includes the Arachne, the half woman, half spider she wants so desperately reach, so she can actually interact with people again, even though she doesn't actually want to interact with people, and she is just so bad at it. But this gives her a goal, a reason to keep pushing forward, keep moving forward. Huzzah! And then she decides to learn magic. For most people, it's a very time-consuming process, a lot of trial and error. They have to learn how to feel the magic, how to move it, how to choose a proper rune to form it, and make sure the spell doesn't backfire. But thanks to Height of Occultism, she can just instantly form the most optimal rune at any time she wants, meaning that she is literally better at magic than anyone else on the planet. Huzzah! And she practices by using her poison shot spell, and it works perfectly! Unfortunately, though, its poison is much weaker than her own deadly spider poison, which she creates through poison synthesis, so yeah, that's a problem. It means her poison shots are actually weaker than what she can do normally, but they can shoot much further away, so, some gives and takes for that. And unfortunately, even though she's better at magic than basically everyone on the planet, she can still not use Abyss magic. Even level 1 Abyss magic is too much for her. And so she starts to wonder, okay, if level 1 is too much, level 10 might actually end up destroying the world. And yeah, that sounds about right. That actually sounds about right. And then at that exact moment, she gets Parallel Mind number 3, which she dubs Magic Brain, in which she devotes solely to the practice of magic, basically testing spells time and time again, while the other 2 brains are focused on, the information and fighting monsters and all of that. Huzzah! And then her overeating skill finally reaches level 10 and becomes Satiation level 1. Huzzah! And this works just like overeating did, but for HP, MP, and SP. So, by eating, she can still be able to charge up an SP. But by, just sitting there waiting for MP auto recovery and HP auto recovery to work, she's able to charge up, bonus HP and MP for her to use down the road when she's in trouble. So, super useful skill to have. And then as she's trying to cross the magma lake, she comes face to face with a fire worm. Is the one I was talking about before, the one who's able to control weaker monsters, and has an army of seahorses and 4 eels at his disposal. So, yeah, a really tough fight for Kumiko. By using Poison Fog, she's able to take down most of the seahorses, and then she starts producing a ridiculous amount of poison, so much so that it rains down and just damages everything around her. Impressive! Unfortunately, this causes her to level up, which causes her to molt, and while she's busy taking off her dead skin, she gets attacked and, suffers a whole bunch of damage. But she has definitely become more powerful than she was before evolution, because she's able to kill an eel in a single blow using her rod attack. Yeah, that thing's terrifying. That thing is utterly terrifying. I mean, like I said before, it literally disintegrates foes. It does quite a bit of damage to her as well, but then she immediately levels up, which brings her HP back to full, and manages to help her regrow that lost limb. So, it's all good. And thanks to her poison, she's able to kill the fireworm and the eels and all the seahorses, and this fight actually brings her level all the way up from 6 to 15, and gives her the skill Demon Lord. Seriously, she gets the skill Demon Lord, which increases all stats by the number of the skill level times 100, and raises all resistances. So yeah, that's a pretty good skill to have. And if you're wondering why she got that skill now, it's because she utterly and completely terrified the eels by paralyzing them and forcing them to watch as she killed their comrades. Yeah, Kumiko, that merciless title is really suiting you right now. And then just to really drive things home, she gets the Fearbringer title, which is acquired by inducing a certain amount of proficiency in fear resistance in others, with a description reading, a title awarded to those who personify fear, with the effect being that anyone who looks at her is struck with fear and basically runs away. I mean, strong opponents are able to overcome this fear, but for most of them, they just bolt as soon as they see her. Which is bad because, this makes it very hard for her to acquire any food because all her prey keeps running away from her. And this title also came with a skill Intimidation, which just induces fear on the surrounding area, so yeah, everyone is really afraid of her. And Heretic Attack, which adds the heresy attribute Ren's Soul to attack, with Ren's Soul being an attribute that directly disrupts the soul. So yeah, she can now attack the souls of her enemies. So terrifying. Yeah, that Demon Lord title really starting to fit her quite well. Though she just killed a whole bunch of worms, so she also got the title Worm Slayer, which increases damage to worm and dragon type opponents, and the description reads, a title award to those who bring down a large number of worms. Huzzah! Anyway though, thanks to all the skill points she managed to get by killing a whole bunch of enemies, she's finally able to purchase Spatial Magic for 500 points. Huzzah! And figured, this will be it. This will be the teleport skill she can use to finally get out of Labyrinth. Unfortunately, Spatial Magic level 1 only has the skill Coordinate Designation, which creates a green cube in space that just designates that space as being a spot the person had some special interest in. I mean, she thinks that maybe, down the road she'll be able to use it to teleport to that location, any locations where she's put a green cube, but for right now, it's basically useless. So she's trying to, get Magic Brain to train it again and again, so she can eventually, make good use of it down the road. We'll see about that. And that's basically where Kumiko's storyline this volume ends. The big fight against Fire Dragon doesn't happen until volume 3, so that'll be my next video, and look forward to it because, oh, I'm super excited to talk about some of the elements of that fight. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a lot of fun. But anyway, then we flash over to Shun's storyline, where he's at the academy, home to aristocrats, wealthy commoners, and those with a great deal of natural talent. And he has that big reunion with Yuri and Hugo. And a very important detail mentioned here in light novel is that Sue is here for this meeting. Sue sees her brother, who she has literally known since she was born, talking to people she's never met before in a language she's never heard of before. So yeah, she has a lot of questions about that, though she never directly asks Shun about it, and instead talks to Katya about it instead. And I'm going to mention that in the Katya chapters. But anyway, so Yuri, she's training to become the next saint, and she's just super religious and crazy. Super, super crazy. Seriously, her entire thing in this volume is trying to convert people to her religion time and time again. Hugo, meanwhile, is the son of the Sword King, the leader of Rensant Empire, where strength is valued above all else. And back in Japan, he was the leader of the boys, he was pushy, looked down on others, and Shun just tried to avoid him. That's basically who he is in this world. As we see during their first magic class, or when they're supposed to be using water magic, Hugo instead decides to use level 5 fire magic to destroy the targets and almost set fire to the academy. And then Shun puts out the fire before, it can burn down the freaking academy with level 1 water magic. Learning level 1 water magic after a single shot, even though Yuri didn't get it after time and time and time again trying, really showing, how skilled Shun is at water magic and just how quickly he learns skills. And for the record, that moment where Shun put out the fire that Hugo started, that was the moment that Hugo started to regard Shun as his enemy. The whole thing where, he's mad that Shun got the attention for killing the Earth Dragon, yeah, that did not happen at all in the light novel. In fact, the Earth Dragon thing happened after the training arc, after they went camping. So his whole reason, Hugo's entire reason for trying to kill Shun was just because he thought he was more skilled than he was. That was it. That was his entire purpose. That was the entire reason why he viewed him as his enemy. God, that's depressing. It's so pathetic. It's so utterly, utterly pathetic. Oh yeah, Faye also has her own training arc this volume, as she goes off with Anna, Shun's maid, to go try to level up, go try and evolve before she reaches the end of her lifespan. It is unpleasant. Very, very unpleasant, because apparently Anna assigns this belief that eating strong monsters will make your skills grow more quickly. And that might be true. That might actually be true because Kumiko has gotten very strong very, very fast. But it's, very disgusting food, and Faye is not happy about it at all. But as a result of the training, she's able to evolve from the size of a chameleon to the size of a very large dog, with her stats being about 700, way higher than almost all of humanity. So, yeah, that's terrifying. She's a very, very terrifying creature. And it's even said the reason why humans are able to kill monsters is because monsters don't train their skills like people do. But Faye is training her skills, and as a monster, her stats grow far more quickly, so she could be a true threat to humanity if she ever turned against them. Interesting. And then we get a great glimpse of their life in the academy, how they've all been changed by their experience. Shun feels isolated because, he's a member of royalty. No one's really willing to approach him because they think he's so far above all of them. I mean, there are some, but mostly they're trying to, take advantage of him, use their connection to him to benefit themselves down the road. But Katya is pretty good at picking these guys out and keeping them far, far away from him. Hugo, he was always a bully in the past life, but now he was born and raised in a kingdom where might makes right, and he's been able to, use his strength, use his authority to basically build an army of followers. Most of the boys in their grade are followers of Hugo, part of his private army that he's planning on using to basically dominate the entire freaking world. Yuri was abandoned as a child and raised up in the Word of God cult, and she's become so frantic, such a fervent believer, because the world's voice is the only way she could hear the Japanese language, the voice of her homeland again, and so she found comfort in it. And she became just super duper insanely religious, and talks about constantly tries to convert everyone, and keeps saying if you see anyone with a taboo skill, you should kill them right away. Mizoka's become so mysterious, won't answer any of their questions. Everybody's changed so much, and Shun's afraid to. Shun's afraid that he'll become a different person, that Katya will become a different person. Even though he seems fairly oblivious to the fact that she is a girl now, and has thus become a different person, but whatever. Shun's a bit slow. He's a bit slow. But anyway, then they go on a camping exercise with the goal being to, find some medicinal plants, figure out how to survive in the wilderness, stuff like that. And they will get extra points if they stop monsters or they defeat monsters, but they aren't allowed to attack monsters directly. They have to be monsters that attack them first. And then Hugo announces that he's planning on killing basically everyone on this trip, with his lackeys being given orders to kill all the other groups, and then release strong monsters and frame the monsters for doing all the killing. Thankfully though, Miss Oka saw all this coming a mile away, arrested his lackeys, killed the monsters, and then used her ruler's authority to strip him of all his skills and bring his stats down to 30. Huzzah! Though there is actually a cost to doing this, because as it turns out, stripping some of their skills also costs her some of her own skills and forces her to spend the next couple days in bed. And unfortunately, none of Hugo's lackeys actually rat him out. They all say, they did it on their own. He had nothing to do with it. He had nothing to do with it. So Hugo could actually get away scot-free even after all this happened. And then the earthworm shows up. Yeah, interesting enough, this happens after the camping trip in the light novel, not after the magic session like in the anime, which I find very interesting. But as it turns out, the earthworm wasn't just some random monster storming around. It was actually captured by one of Hugo's lackeys, a summoner who was trying to control it, so it could be their ace in the hole. But unfortunately, the summoner is very, very weak, much, much weaker than the earthworm, and therefore the earthworm won't actually listen to it. So yeah, a really, really stupid summoner. But thanks to Faye's help, they're able to take it down, they're able to kill it. Unfortunately, though, Faye then gets the King Eater title and realizes that the monster she killed was in fact her parent, who came to the academy to look for her, only then be murdered by her own child. So, yeah, that's depressing. That's very, very depressing. And Shun is, in the anime, he seems fairly fine throughout all this. He's smiling, he's alright, but in the light novel, he's just so utterly, utterly terrified, so scared of the fact that he just took a life, that he killed the Earth Dragon, that he almost died through it, and he just, he's barely able to hold together, he's shaking, he can't even put on a fake smile, but when he finds out that he just murdered Faye's mother, Faye's father, in front of her, he pukes and passes out. And Hugo goes to his room and starts screaming again and again how he's going to kill Miss Oka, and gets the skills Desire, Wrath, Usurp, and Crude. So yeah, a very, very pleasant man. A very pleasant man. And then we have the Katya chapter, some of my favorite chapters in this volume. First off, we have Katya and Miss Oka talking, and Miss Oka basically explains that she's here in the academy to look after the students she couldn't actually take into custody. The royalty, the high-ranking nobles, the future scientists, stuff like that. And Katya just really, really doesn't trust her because, there's a whole bunch of reasons for not trusting her. For one thing, she won't actually say which ones are dead, which ones are alive. She won't divulge her secrets. She won't explain where she keeps going and disappearing to. And she actually even says, don't train your skills too much, which is basically like a death sentence. If they don't train their skills, they'll go to battle and they will die. So, yeah, there's a whole bunch of reasons why Katya doesn't trust Miss Oka, and it's really, continues down the road. She continues not to trust Miss Oka for basically the rest of at least the first 5 volumes. Even saying that Shun is far too trusting and shouldn't listen to Miss Oka at all, which, oh, I love it. And Miss Oka agrees. She's like, yeah, you know what, he's too trusting. You shouldn't listen to me at all. You shouldn't trust me so blindly. I could definitely be lying to you guys right now. But then makes a comment how there's some seeds of romance going on between Katya and Shun, which, oh, I love it. I love that. But anyway, then Katya meets up with Sue. And Sue's wondering, okay, what's the deal with you guys? Because like I said before, she's very, very confused because she saw Shun talking to Yuri and Hugo in a language she'd never heard of before. And she's wondering what's going on. How do he know his language? Who is he? And Katya basically explains, if you really want to know the answers, I'll tell you, but I think you should ask Shun. I think the answer would mean more coming from him. And she agrees to it. Though she does also say there's no romance going on between her and Shun, which Sue really, really doesn't believe, and says that, she's not going to explain it to Katya because Katya will be her rival down the road, which, oh, Sue and Katya, you have a weird, weird relationship, just super duper weird. And then, Katya's thinking about this and says, you know what, it's not my problem, it's Shun's problem, he should deal with it. And then 2 seconds later, she's like, you know what, I should talk to Shun about this tomorrow, so he's well aware of what's going on. So yeah, she's incapable of not rushing in and helping Shun every chance she gets, and I really do love that about her, I really do love that about her. And then we get the Katya and Faye chapter, and Katya just has to ask, hey Faye, is it weird that you're living in the same room as a teenage boy? To which Faye responds, are you attracted to lizards? No, we're different species. I'm physically incapable of being attracted to a human being. I can recognize someone as being attractive, but it does nothing for me. I can't actually feel attracted to them physically. So, interesting, really is showing how, the new bodies, the new environments are changing who they are as people. I mean, Faye is no longer attracted to people, while Katya is kind of attracted to guys now, or at the very least attracted to Shun, even though she is definitely in denial about it. And they even comment about how Shun is the only one who managed to remain normal throughout all of this. Everyone else has changed, adapted to their new environment, but Shun is the same person he was back in Japan, which, I mean, on one hand is a good thing, but on the other hand, is really, really not, because, his whole fear of killing and all that is something that didn't change when he came over this new world, and it's kind of in the way. It's kind of in the problem for them. Anyway, Faye realizes that Katya is in love with Shun. Besides, it'd be more fun not say anything about it and just stay quiet. The next scene is between Yuri and Katya, and Yuri is a little bit confused about why Katya is changing in the same room as them when she's not actually a girl, which, interesting, very, very interesting question. I mean, if you were magically transformed into a girl, which room would you change in? That's, a very good debate, but as Katsu explains, now that she's a girl, she feels nothing when she looks at other girls' bodies, even though she did when she was a boy. And, basically her transforming, her changing her body, her becoming a girl made her attracted to guys. In the same way that Faye becoming a dragon means she's no longer attracted to humans. Though Katya is very much bothered when Yuri describes her as being feminine. She's wondering, no, I'm not feminine. I'm a guy. I'm still a guy, even if my body's a girl, but she's not. She's not. And then she starts wondering, wait, how does Shun see me? As a boy or a girl? And then she gets wondering, wait, why am I concerned about whether Shun sees me as a boy or a girl? That's weird. That's weird. All right, let's forget about it. Let's forget about it. And the final chapter is between Katya, Faye, and Yuri. Katya is trying to comfort Faye after finding out that she, ate her parent, and she's okay. Faye's okay with it. She's managed to, overcome the feelings. She realized she never actually met her parents before, so she isn't feeling all that awful about it. Though they both agree they really, really need to keep it a secret from Yuri, or else she will kill her. And speaking of the devil, Yuri shows up. And then we have really interesting comments about how, Shun keeps complaining that Yuri is such a religious fanatic, but Shun is a follower of the religion of Julius, constantly praising and talking about him literally all the time. And it's not really all that different from how she talks about her own religion, how she talks about the word of God. Always trying to convert people, always trying to praise the God, to tell everyone how amazing and wonderful the God is. Then we get some very interesting conversations about Julius, about the hero. Apparently, for most heroes, they're basically used as weapons, then in dangerous situations, time and time again, to basically be used and thrown away once they, reach their breaking point, once they die. But because Julius is a prince, he's backed by the entire kingdom, and no one can really use him. No one can really force him to go somewhere he doesn't want to go. But because he's such a brave hero, he's always rushing off into danger, always rushing to help people, protect them as best he can. Oh, we also have Katya saying she's still a man on the inside, to which both Faye and Yuri say no at the exact same time, which, oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, Katya doesn't realize that she's really, really changed in this whole new world. And we also find out there is one saint per hero, the current saint that's with Julius, Yana. If something happens to Julius, if he dies, then a new saint will be picked, and Yana will basically force into retirement because a saint can only ever serve one hero in their lifetime. And they start talking about the Nightmare Labyrinth, the only monster to ever give Julius a true defeat in combat. And they start wondering if maybe that spider could have been a demon lord. And they wonder, that spider actually showed up right around the time all of us were born. So could that baby have been one of us? Could one of us become the demon lord? To which Faye responds, I doubt a baby could become a demon lord unless it spent every waking moment from the time it was born moving around and leveling up. So yeah, really, really hinting that Kumiko is in fact the Demon Lord. In fact, in the very next chapter after this one, Kumiko got the Demon Lord skill, so yeah, they were really trying to trick us, make us think that Kumiko was in fact the Demon Lord. Though I guess that isn't entirely false. Either way. We also then get a couple chapters of the Julius perspective. He's hunting the Nightmare Vestige, and we actually find out quite a bit about his party. First off, we have Julius himself, who learned exceptional magic from his master before they were separated by political reasons. Apparently he tries too hard to look good, to live up to everyone's expectations, and it's just, really, really hard on him. Their guide is Mr. Goyev. First off, with Yana the Saint, and she sucks. She just overwhelmingly sucks. Seriously. It was said that the Saint is chosen from an elite group, and I can't believe that. I have to feel like every other candidate got sick when she was picked, because, she's awful. And for one thing, she hates bugs, and she's afraid of the dark, and yet they are in a labyrinth full of bugs and darkness, so she just hangs onto Julius, clinging him, afraid to move from his side as they're traveling through it. For another, her only strong qualities are her light magic and recovery magic, but Julius's light magic and recovery magic are actually stronger than hers, so she told him not to use his magic in public because she didn't want to look bad. God, she sucks. Oh, and best of all, when Julius actually got poisoned, Goyev the guide used purification magic on Julius to save his life, not the freaking saint whose specialty is light magic and recovery magic. So yeah, she is utterly and completely useless. Then we have Hirons, Julius' childhood friend, second son of a duke. He's great iron defense, a bit sarcastic, no problems with him. Hawken is a former thief and current slave, and his owner is the other member of the party, Justking, which is weird. Really, really weird. There's a slave in the hero's party. What is this, Rising the Shield hero? But apparently it wasn't that bad of a guy. He would rob from the rich and the corrupt and give to the poor. He's considered the weakest in the party, but the most knowledgeable about the seedy underbelly of the world, which makes him an invaluable resource for some reason. Justkin is Hawken's owner, a former adventurer, and the oldest there, but he has the most experience, so he's very helpful for keeping everyone in line, keeping everyone along the right path, letting them know where to go, what to do next. Though he's actually considered to be a better swordsman than Julius, and would win if it wasn't for the difference in their stats. Though he also has experience in many different type of weapons, so yeah, I like Justkin. Justkin's probably the best of this whole group right now. Anyway, then several days later, they fight the Nightmare Vestige. They win thanks to the help of the Demon Lord. Huzzah! But then, sometime later, they find out the Demon Lord's army is on their move, and Julius really wanted peace. There was a whole scene where he's telling Shun that he wants peace, where he meets Shun at the academy, wasn't actually in the light novel at all. Interesting. But anyway, his comrades are much, much less optimistic. They realize, war's inevitable. We're always going to fight against demons. We're always going to have to try and kill the demons. Though, Julius is very worried because no human alive, or at least no human who's going to be in this war, has actually experienced large-scale war before. It's been relatively peaceful for a very long time. And what's more, demons live longer than humans, they're just as smart as humans, and they far exceed humans in terms of magic and physical abilities. So, yeah, I really, really don't know how exactly humans can hope to beat demons. It seems like demons are, just better at everything. And then Julius talks about his scarf and remembers how his mother made it for him right before Shun was born, right before she died. And he remembers looking down at his little brother in the crib and thinking, okay, now it's true, now I really have to be a hero, now I really have to stand up and protect the world for the sake of my little brother. And then the demons attack. Oh no! Before that, though, we have the Demon Lord's council meeting. First off, is the aide, Balto. And when the Demon Lord enters the room, 5 stand up, and 5 remain seating, including Balto's younger brother, Blow, which is concerning. Very, very concerning. But anyway, once Ariel starts the meeting, Balto is basically in charge, makes sure everything gets done properly. And we get to meet everyone. First off, we have the first commander, Ogner. He's old, even by demon standards, and has served several generations of demon lords. He's considered a model military man. Second commander is Sanatoria, who is a succubus, as you might have guessed by her appearance. And, she said she needs a little more time for shadow dealings. Third commander is Kogu, a giant man who wants to avoid war, and is told he can get that if he just sacrifices his entire army for the sake of saving the world, but he says no, and so they move on. The fourth one, very important, Mira's office, whatever, the butler, Sophia's butler, seriously. Sophia's butler is in this scene, episode 6 or 7, and yet no one seemed to make the connection when he actually appeared later on. I mean, it makes sense. He doesn't get a whole lot of screen time, and it almost feels like they're purposely trying to avoid him so we won't make the connection, but I don't know, I just find that very, very interesting bit of foreshadowing right there. Anyway, Balto is only able to say that Mayor's office, the butler, shows no sign of motion, is impossible to read. Sixth commander is Hugh, seventh commander is his younger brother, Blow, and he is very, very annoyed trying to figure out why Balto is following this woman, following the Demon Lord, when Balto is basically the one who's keeping the Demon Lord kingdom together all this time. And then the fifth commander, Darrett, arrives and starts a fight with him, saying it's the providence of the world that compels us to follow the Demon Lord, which... interesting. I mean, it's never a good thing when you're saying you follow me because of the providence of the world. That sounds pretty evil right there. But anyway, thankfully, Ariel is able to train them both to Silk, but neither of them actually know what she's doing or how she's doing it because she never actually demonstrated her powers to the Demon Lord commanders before, and her Silk is too thin to actually see. So yeah, they're very confused, they're very terrified, and even Balto, her aide, only knows that she can control puppets with a thread, and that's it. She's even keeping her powers hidden from him. Eighth commander is Wrath, who Balto has a bunch of issues with, but who seems to trust the Demon Lord, so that's enough. Ninth commander wears dark armor and has red eyes and is only called Black. 10th commander is white skin and white robe, has her eyes closed, and they only call her White. Balto knows absolutely nothing about these last two, but believes them to be rulers, being said to manipulate the world behind the scenes. And he has absolutely no freaking clue how exactly the Demon Lord managed to convince 2 of them to join her side, but he is utterly, utterly terrified of them. There's also another scene where the Demon Lord enchants Julius' scarf with some sort of divine protection spell before giving it back to him, so very, very curious about that. I mean, I think that might be why Julius is having those visions, hallucinations when he was in Labyrinth. Maybe, I'm not sure about that. But anyway, then we get to the final Shun chapter, the voice that announces ruination. And several years have passed since Hugo's attack, but they are still at school. Yeah, I think this is much, much different than the anime. I'm pretty sure in the anime, it was a very brief time skip. Anyway, right after the attack, Hugo and Miss Oka both vanished. No one knows where they went, how they disappeared. Sue has stopped following Shun around. He feels a little bit lonely about this. She doesn't, look at him the same way as she did before. Katsu's also putting some distance between him and her, which he's also worried about. He's also weirded out, trying to figure out why exactly is going on. Faye has been focused on leveling up and now lives outside because she evolved and grew bigger. And Shun is just so utterly, utterly afraid of killing, of dying. And he just says to himself, I must never forget the weight of taking life. If I do, it won't be myself anymore. I'll become a monster just like Hugo became. And, he says, what? I'm not going to be a hero. I'm not going to be a savior, but I just want to be strong enough to protect the people I love, the ones I care about. And then things change. Then things take a very, very dark turn. And I'm just going to read the last page of the light novel here because I absolutely freaking love how it's worded. So even if there have been a few small changes, my life remains pretty peaceful.
Condition satisfied. Acquired title hero. Acquired skills. Hero level 1. Holy light magic level 1. As a result of this title, hero.
Until a voice shouted that piece. Huh? Since we're still in the middle of class, my confused mutter echoed through the classroom more loudly than I expected. What is it, Schlein? Is there some part of the lecture you don't understand? The professor eyes me politely, but his voice doesn't register through the echoes of chaos ripping my mind. Schlein? Schlein? What's wrong? I'm sure the blood must have been draining from my face, but how can I not be shocked? The hero title is only held by one human in the world at any time, and I know very well who that hero is supposed to be. Once you acquire a title, you can never relinquish it for as long as you live. The title of hero is no exception. As long as you live, so that can mean only one thing. There's no other explanation. I can't believe it. I don't want to believe it, but that title has undeniably been added to my status. No, it can't be. This can't be happening. No, 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 no. That could never happen. That could never happen to my brother. But that title obdurately reveals the reality. On this day, a hero has died, and a new hero is born. Oh, I love that. I freaking love that. Seriously. Finding out in the middle of class that your brother has died by gaining his skill, by gaining his title is... Oh, that's cruel. That is cruel on a whole other level. But, let me know down below. What do you think of the changes the anime made? Anything you liked? Anything you didn't? What do you think of them, cutting out the whole middle boss of the middle stratum, the fireworm? It's obviously not as big a deal as the fire dragon she faces later on. I'm very excited to talk about it next video, but link to all down below. Be sure to like, subscribe to the next video. And until then, peace!